Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Officially Unofficial cast coverage of the LJL Summer Split, brought to you by myself, Alex, otherwise known as Lexicon by Miles Swan, the Hapgood brother duo of Initialize and Nightmare, otherwise known as Sam Initialize Hapgood and Alex Nightmare Hapgood. Nightmare, it's no longer your birthday, so I can't give you well wishes, but now I can make fun of you because you're not the birthday boy. That's how that works, right?
That's exactly how it works. You know, we're just sat here talking over a good cup of coffee about some good League of Legends about to happen.
Very good, yes, absolutely, very good.
Indeed. What a fine game this is.
But continue your sentence, sir. Oh, absolutely.
Of course, we've got I'm looking forward to this one particularly.
You've changed voices. That's impressive, sir.
I'm sorry, sir. No, I dropped it there. I've got to be back to being an appropriately British man commentator. Of course, this particular game would be the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming versus V3 Esports, and I believe this should be, as the locals say, a banger.
Okay, so I'm going to try and bring us back on track. That is right. We're going to see the Hawks facing off against V3 Esports. Obviously, one of these teams is still currently undefeated, looking to extend their lead, and this is one of the teams they need to do it against, that being the Hawks, the other being Dead Nation Focus Me, which will be our next game following this one. Gentlemen, talking about V3 versus the Hawks, I have to rip the band-aid off now so everybody has the same expectation as us. Who do you think's going to win this Initialize?
The Hawk, no, V3. V3 definitely have this one.
Okay, Nightmare.
V for victory, it's V3.
Okay, that's V for 3, because it's all three of us for V3's victory. Yeah, there's no way that anybody else can possibly go otherwise. They are playing phenomenally in each of their lanes, and they have had games where they possibly have been best in role this split so far.
I agree. Yeah. I think that V3 are the most exciting team to watch in the LJL right now. And I said that for periods of spring. When we got towards the end of the split, they went on their win streak. I was like, wow, these guys are just very fun to watch. They love playing together in terms of their coherent strategies, and they play around some star power, but it's coherency alongside that.
Yeah, go on. But then, let's be real. We had some questions about some of their players, in all honesty, around spring. There were some questions about how passive Paz was in that top lane. There were some questions around Ace and how he just wasn't quite gelling fully with the team. Sometimes they'd have phenomenal performances. Other times it was... sometimes the bot lane synergy wasn't always there with everybody. But whatever they've done now, they fixed it. On the opposite side is the Hawks, who are, you could argue, having maybe a better split than their spring split so far. They're currently in the table, and how it's currently looking, might make it into playoffs if they keep doing this performance, right, Initialize?
Yeah, potentially. Like, we're seeing some good things, particularly against lower teams, where macro and mechanics are coming out on top.
Just beat Burning Core.
Yeah, just beat Burning Core in pretty convincing fashion as well. That's not to say I think they're going to get all that high up the table, because I think there is a ceiling to the way they're playing at the minute. I need to see more out of the squad if I want to see them move beyond beating lower table teams.
Sure, I think that's fair. I mean, we do have that huge question now that, as I gave the incredible statement that Ace is maybe sometimes best in role, Nightmare, our resident mid laner, would probably count that as a slight sacrilege. But in all fairness, I mean, the team is revolving well around each other, right?
The thing about what's happened with Ace is that he's found the way to enact himself on the game the best within his team.
Sure.
There have been a great many teams throughout history of which have had stunning solo players which haven't managed to make it work. And some which have managed to make it work. But a lot of the more important teams throughout history have been ones like previous world champions now, FPX, who've had a very unorthodox mid laner and still have made it work. They found a way to slot all the jigsaw pieces together and make the most out of their players. Ace is starting to fall into that kind of role, and with the rest of his team playing out of their goddamn minds, this is looking very scary for the LGL. We could have new frontrunners.
We could have new frontrunners. First, though, they're going to have to go through the Hawks to even attempt to become the full reign front runners. We will have to see that, gentlemen. Before we go into the pick and ban phase, the last question: what do you want to see Boogie play? Well, let's be real. That's the real question here. What do you want to see Boogie play in the jungle?
Give me the Evelyn game. I want to see it. I know you play it. I know you main it. Get it out on stage already, man.
That or Fiddlesticks. Something interesting.
Okay. We've got Evelyn or Fiddlesticks. Our resident jungler initializes favorite champion or second favorite champion?
It's up there. It's
top three. Top three in the harem.
It's the one I'm playing the best right now. The 80% win rate is speaking well.
Okay.
I'm not going to ask Ace to play Ari.
Please don't. Please don't. No. He's found his niche. Please don't make him do that. Unless she becomes really, really good again, then fair game. Because he can play assassins. We know he plays a mean LeBlanc.
Syndra and his LeBlanc. Pretty good.
So, maybe. We're saying there's a chance. Gentlemen, let's go into this pick and ban phase. Good luck to both these teams. And gentlemen, take it away.
Mass one, it is good to be back on the casting desk. The Hawks will be back again, still on blue side, and they'll be versus V3 this time. But for the Hawks, their roster remains unchanged as Aramik in the top lane, Tussle in the jungle, Dasher in the mid lane, and of course, the 100-acre bot lane of Honey and Poo.
V3 are undefeated first-placed team coming into week 3 of the LJL summer. In the top lane, it is Paz in the jungle, Boogie in the mid lane, Ace, and in the bot lane facing off against Honey and Poo will be Archer and Reiner.
Well, we're going to see how this one plays out, of course, because we are into picks and bans with all these interesting bans in particular coming out. It's the Graves away from Boogie, but it's also the double Enchanter support bans that have been so impactful in recent weeks and patches. Karma and Yuumi, and Karma in particular for V3 is so powerful.
It's been a bit of a crutch for Ace, actually, because he managed to survive lane versus Ardia, come into a game and just play the Deathball style squad with that Karma and just say, look, I'm going to buff up the rest of my team. We're going to stick as 5. You can't split the map versus us, and you will lose the grouped up fights. Ace will have to find something else to resort back to. The LeBlanc is open, might be an option. The Hawks, however, are going to go back towards Aphelios for Honey.
Well, Rick Moranis is still on speed dial. We're going to see whether Honey I Shrunk the Health Bars is the movie of choice again today. V3, though, have got a chance to respond. Thinking about this set, which has been a kind of power pick just because of its pure flexibility in general across the world.
It can be played in 4 roles, everywhere but the bot lane position. It can be played as support. It can be played in the solo lanes and, of course, the jungle as well. It would be, instead of resident jungler, it would be resident sleeper if Boogie did pick up that champion, though. He's hovering it.
Go on,
He's
man.
hovering it. Yeah, it's nice to think about. I don't know whether it's likely to be locked in, especially this early into a draft. It would be
risky.
Showing a lot of different cards. Showing too many cards, really. So,
yeah, of course, Boogie's Nidalee is absolutely a pleasure to watch. He is probably, well, actually, it's not probably, he is the best Nidalee in the league. I will put my name on that. He eviscerated teams in week 1 on the back of that. I believe it was
the Galio in the mid lane setting up for the Nidalee, which just beat a losing matchup in the mid lane. It was the Corki versus Galio matchup, and Boogie just turned that on its head. Tussle will pick up the Trundle for the second time today. Pooh will head towards the Thresh for his second reprisal of this champion too.
Oh, the Hawks kind of running back their draft from game 1, as we said, but V3 are pulling out a little bit more aggression here. Set and Kalista to join up with that Nidalee.
Not the Ezreal.
No, not the Ezreal. And I mean, Archer and Reiner have loved to shove up and put a lot of pressure in. If you can throw a Fate's Call out, you can definitely set up for Nidalee Spears pretty well. Maybe something like a Nautilus as well, just something to make sure those spears can become heat-seeking. And I could see more bot lane focus, as has been the way of V3 over the last few weeks.
Ornn banned away from the Hawks, Zoe banned away from Ace. That's one of the mid lanes. He does fall back towards that and the Jace, actually, which are very different from the style which you saw him playing last week, which we were very impressed with, going towards that more supportive style. I'd still like to see a LeBlanc out of him. It sets up pretty well for a lot of ganks, and, with that chain... the ethereal chains and set up for the Nidalee Spear. And we know what Boogie can do even without CC to set up his spears.
Yeah, of course, we know what he can do, but it's always nice to make it easier for your Nidalees just from
without
a draft perspective. So I kind of expect a little bit of setup somewhere around. But LeBlanc will be banned away
by
from...
V3. Okay.
Yeah, by V3.
I think
and
this is setting up.
This
is setting up for a counter pick for Ace. They're probably going to. They do have still the flexibility of having set in the support or in top lane. They can pick whatever they want here. Wukong's still available. Galio, however,
flexible.
Locked in for Ace. They played this combo again, like I said, against that Corki matchup. And as much as Dasher has been a good Corki, we've seen what V3 have done to this lane before. I am worried if Dasher wants to lock this in.
Okay, so they're thinking about the Corki, but of course, Wukong is still available. Aramek had a good game on that last time. It will be locked in now as well. Now to see what Dasher wants to go for. Will he index into the Corki? Of course, the thing is, Corki has very few bad matchups. So even if it is a kind of flex of the Galio down to the support position, which is still a possibility, then maybe he should still have an okay lane.
Potentially, I prefer the Vladimir here. It allows you to pull out early of that CC. I really want to see a Renekton here from Paz. I think that Renekton would be very good for this mid-game brawl comp from V3. Works well with an Italy as well. Allows you to have that mixed damage dive combo on the top side with CC. Venom on the top side. It's different though. It's going to be our first volley bear of the day. It still has that CC. It's still a brawler, still a mid-game. It's a new look for Paz.
It is, and they're flexing this set and Galio around, looking to find different options here.
True, it could be the set mid Galio support.
Could be. Still flexing.
I'd imagine it's Galio mid.
I'd imagine Galio mid, I agree. And Ace definitely is what he's doing with that champion. Magic resist versus a magic champion and taunt sounds pretty good. Also, Set Callisto is just damn strong at the minute.
And forgive me if I'm wrong, I think Dasher, when he was playing in top lane last split, was still playing Vladimir even there. So
Yes,
it's still a champion he was familiar with. Bring it down into the mid lane versus Ace.
Okay, well, it will be locked in now for Ace and Set in, or Ace on Galio. Reiner for Set there. If I can get that phrasing correct, I think I managed to invert champions and names there, but you've kind of seen the comps there, and it's big dive from V3 with good setup for Nidalee in the early game. On the other side, though, Hawks have got another good front-to-back team fight with two big scaling AD carries.
They do. I am worried that if V3 get even an inch of an option to take in this game, they are going to run forward very, very quickly. If a spear lands from Nidalee, if Volibear pops the Q and you have the Fate's Call, there is no way to disengage this comp from the Hawks. You have one Lantern to save one person. That is not going to be enough. I think even Tussle will get one shot by this team. V3 are doing what they do best. They flex themselves around in draft, but they're still playing the same roles that they do normally do within this team. Ace playing that more utility style, has the CC, sets up for Boogie very well.
He absolutely does, and I'm kind of excited to see the Wombo out of V3. On the other, I mean, it's not like there isn't that option for Hawks as well between, Vladimir and Aphelios definitely do vast amounts of damage. So if they can survive the burst, then turnaround is definitely fair game.
So the thing for me, yes, and that's the thing, right? If the Hawks can't disengage, they are left with the option of turn and fight. They have the ability to do that, but you're going to have to do that in the face of a rampant V3 team set at 4-0.
We're on to the Rift now. We'll have to see how it plays out. Are we going to see level 1 shenanigans? Boogie has definitely been a proponent of them on things like the Nidalee in the past.
And we have a return, of course, to the Boogio combo. Galio Boogie.
It's here. Yes, there are no weak champions on my team, says the unfortunate mispronunciation of Boogie and Galio together that I forged the other week. It'll haunt me forever, that.
Looking to become the king of games, king of the LJL then, RV3 coming into this game. And it will be their 5th game of the LJL summer. Looking to keep up that undefeated record. Of course, remember, DFM held that record from spring going 9-0, seeing if they can match that win streak.
They're going to certainly try, and here is that late invade. I was kind of wondering whether it would come out, and here it is. They are going to be around. Trundle is the top side. Tussle doesn't want to be anywhere near this level 1, as Paz will just throw a quick ward over by the red buff of his own team, just to make sure that, that if Tussle does go for the vertical jungling that V3 have come in indexing into the last few weeks, then they'll know that that is the case.
They love to do these late invades. Boogie setting up for vertical jungling, as you were saying. We saw this versus Axes, in fact. Just walks into the enemy jungle, ruins the game from level 1. Of course, there will be no conflict this time. Tussle starting on his own blue buff, walking over towards the red buff, but not before sweeping out a ward, meaning that he knows that he's been spotted. Boogie, instead of starting on his own blue, will be, of course, be starting on the enemy red, going to sweep through the rest of that jungle as well. You're going to have to see if Tussle does stop off to clear out the entire red quadrant of V3.
Okay, well, eyes on that. He's not. He's just backing away for now. He's taking that red buff and moving back to his blue quadrant. Boogie, on the other hand, though, is feeling very content to just steal the entire red quadrant. So
Yeah.
it will be camped to the advantage of Boogie.
It looks like a huge trade came out of the bot lane of V3, taking Honey low, meaning that it just goes with the Severum to go attack the Krugs, try and lifesteal up a little bit, and forcing himself away from a lot of the XP. Now stuck at level 1 to the level 2 bot lane of V3 as this wave crashes into tower. Boogie might be coming in for a dive.
There's barely any summoners. Look how many there are down. Boogie's just looking around. He's just autoing. He's not even thrown a spear yet. But look where Tussle is. He's turned up. That's going to force the disengage from V3.
It does. It didn't actually deny that many minions from the Hawks there because the cannon was tanking at the turret, but you could see the idea there. What this does mean is that Boogie will not be able to take the Krugs, and however, excuse me, it's still a camp advantage to Boogie because none of his camps in the red quadrant besides that buff were taken by Tussle.
None at all. We've got Flash and Ignite down for Reiner, but he's running that Hex Flash, but it is the Cleanse, the Flash, and the Exhaust away from Pooh as well. That is a big advantage when we've seen what a Kalista and a Set can do, especially if the Facebreaker comes down early and aggressively.
Speaking of these lanes and playing aggressively and potentially being vulnerable, though, Ace has this wave frozen against him by Dasher in the mid lane, just as Tussle was looking in there, but Boogie is looking towards the bot lane once again. Spear lands onto Pooh.
It's onto Pooh. He's still got Flash, though, so maybe he can outplay. There is the Flay back, but now Honey's in trouble. He's got a good Facebreaker, though, and Honey goes down for first blood to the Kalista. Flash out of the Haymaker as well. Pooh does get the return kill, but Boogie trades it straight back, but dies as well. That's unfortunate. It'll be a 2 for 2 in the end of the bot side. 1-0-1 for the Kalista, 1-1 and 1 for the Aphelios. That one was a little bit sloppier from V3.
It is, but because the AD carry dies, Honey is missing out on waves in bot side. It's a trade of the supports and then Boogie going down as well. So what you're saying is effectively, okay, so Boogie is going to lose a camp or two for this death. Honey is going to lose a wave for it. And when you know what Kalista can do with an advantage, I'm still going to take that trade for V3.
Okay, let's go over the replay and see exactly how this one played out. It's a very aggressive early dive.
It is. So you know that Pooh has the Aftershock on the Thresh. He goes under the tower, activates it with the Flay, but that's not the important thing here. The Facebreaker lands onto both champions from Reiner. Pooh, however, flashes out of the Haymaker damage and keeps himself alive. Archer didn't have the Rend available to finish off the Thresh, meaning that enough time was bought for another tower shot to come in and finish off the Nidalee.
Kind of critically there as well, we saw the level up to 3 as the dive was commencing, which was pretty huge there. Twitter vote, very much in favor of V3, and I can't say I'm surprised by that.
Don't get me wrong, I love seeing, that's a good trade there from Pats, but it's going to be cloned away from Outright. I love seeing the fans back their own teams, but when you are up against this rampant V3 squad, voting against them seems like a fool's choice.
It really does.
So the
Boogie's not going to go in, just baiting around to see whether anything can happen. Reiner is in a bush off to the side, though. Maybe thinking about Hex flashing forward. Honey going to be forced away from the wave.
Good lantern.
Yeah. The lantern is there, though. Pooh is kind of wise to the patterns of V3. It's been pretty aggressive down this bot side as we were kind of anticipating a little here.
And Pooh had a very good Thresh game in game 1 for them. Boogie is still hanging around this bot side, and Honey and Pooh will be playing respectfully for it. Now down 10 CS. Hex Flash being channeled by the Set made his way into the next bush, unseen so far.
He is. Boogie kind of costing himself some camps a little bit, but there's
Successful
respawns to happen,
check.
so the stealth check is successful. Boogie will decide, okay, I'm not going to find anything here. And with my camps kind of respawning soonish, I ought to move over to this dragon. Archer's going to roam over as well. And Kalista is always great at securing. Thundering Smash comes through, but the turnaround is big from Aramik using that Cyclone. The health bars are pretty low, but here comes a Sky Spirit to give it the shield. Aramik does win out on the end of the trade, though. Just he's flashing back in, trying to get the kill, and also the flash out of pass. Minions are trading back and forth. Aramik needs to get away.
Oh, how much is he healing?
Oh, that was a ridiculous amount of healing. And that was a close one versus one you saw on the player cam there. Aramik was desperately frustrated about how that game traded around. And Aramik actually calling for a pause, I think, looking at his camera.
I lost the 1v1 and now he's at half HP. That's not allowed, and I'd like a remake.
That was something. Okay, so unfortunate. We saw how close that damn 1v1 was. And then the healing came out of nowhere, and we're going to have to a break to see whether anything else was going on there. Aramik certainly seems to think so. At least as far as we can tell, looking at the player cam into the referee coming over. So
The
let's find
Volibear
out.
passive came in huge there. The Sky Splitter giving that last minute shield to buy a little bit more time for the passive to come in. Gives me vibes of DFM, the DFM match where Adamic went for a similar 1v1 onto the Hecarim and then got turned around for a solo kill. Let's have a look here. So Paz runs forward with that Q, gets the stun, gets some extra damage down, and with the tower shot being used, Adamic says, okay, all right, let's just see what I can do here. But he takes the full damage from the Volibear. Ultimate, even with the second Cyclone, it just doesn't have enough damage to follow up onto this Volibear. He does go into the clone, though, and tries to finish off the Volibear. He's tanking up 7 caster minions and some melees as well. Turns around the damage. Paz comes through for the kill.
And the healing with some triumph there.
That's the look of someone who just won a 1v1.
That's a look at the little finger roll there. He's like, yeah.
I have them exactly where I want them.
Yeah. You are 200 years too early to contest me, my boy. And Paz styling a little in the top side.
He's in playoff form already.
That's a pretty terrifying thought. I mean, V3 in general have been in a rare streak of form for any team.
Paz occasionally has these carry games, though.
He does.
Of course, it's just the one solo kill, but kind of going back towards spring. And we're actually back into game, but we'll continue on this point. I mean, I'm a big fan of Paz's Gangplank, for instance. I think he's a very proficient Gangplank player. He had, I'm trying to remember if it was a 14-kill Aatrox game versus DFM. And
it was a 14 versus 12 from Evie. Like, it was a mess of a game where the top players were trying to carry back and forth.
And speaking of carrying, we are down in the bot lane where the 80 carries reside. Still that 10 CS lead for Kalista and Set in this bot lane.
It's level 6 for Archer here, actually. There's still that kind of level advantage, kind of respectively to both roles here.
Oh, yes, and the Dark Harvest Set.
Yes, that would be Omnistone there going forwards, but with Infernum Q available, you don't really want to walk into a wall of fire. So
Gravitum just got timed out, though, so no easy way to disengage that. And that's one way, going later into the game, it's like, the Hawks don't really have a way to disengage this V3 team. You can technically do some stuff with the Gravitum. It's just a little bit harder to set up and very conditional about the weapons you have, of course.
Of course, Lantern's not bad. Pool is pretty good.
But it's just, can you save your whole team? No. So you're still going to have one person go down if you don't position effectively.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see how that one kind of plays out, of course. We haven't really seen a big team fight yet, so we're still kind of theorizing as yet. And we know how it should go, but League of Legends doesn't really go by should all that often. We've seen that before.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Boogie moving up towards the Herald. It's 8.5 minutes. Does mean that Herald has spawned. There are no bot lane rotations coming up towards this. Oh, no, I lie. There is the bot lane rotation from V3 going up towards this Herald as Phalos and Thrasher moving back down towards that bottom lane. They are currently not punishing V3's rotations and getting a tower play or getting those waves into tower as well. It's a very quick Herald secure and nothing lost for V3 for it.
Yeah, just a little bit behind on the play there with the Hawks. We praise them for kind of being on the plays that Burning Core wanted to make. V3 just get to the Herald and don't lose any pressure on bot side with it either.
Now, Boogie hanging around the mid lane. Ace there with the taunt available, seeing Dasher is brazen enough to walk up to this wave.
He's standing on the wrong side of the lane as well. Here we go, goes forwards, but there is the pool. And Dasher kind of knew what was going on.
Much needed there. Dasher playing very respectfully, knows what's up, and gets out without losing anything of value.
Sanguine Pool, tied to Bloods. He says, I know exactly what you were going for, and backs away under his tower. V3, though, bot lane is still going pretty well for Archer and Rhino. No further kills have occurred down here, which is good news, I suppose, for the Hawks.
No, but what is important for it is that they got the reset for the Herald. The pressure they had allowed them the early reset, allowed them priority, allows this farming Nidalee to just blitz through that objective.
She does. She's still kind of even with the Trundle right now, and I will say that Boogie spent a fair amount of time looking for ganks and hasn't gone for the hard farm Nidalee, which you can do. And I don't blame him. He's got good setup. He got the bot lane ahead through it, so you don't want to knock that, but it has been a choice that's been made. And Tussle has kept up pretty well in farm as well, and he's going to be around this bot side, or he was, but he's actually moving back up towards his Raptors.
Facebreaker forces the cleanse out of Honey. No Fate's Call used, but with Boogie on that same side of the map, now danger for the Hawks bot lane.
Tussle chasing after Ace to try and prevent something, but it might mean he's too far away because he can't stop Ace getting out of here anymore if he thinks about going for
This will be the tower down.
Yeah, it will be. It's already down to that 2.5 plate mark. That is the death death zone?
Threshold.
Threshold. There's the word that we would
And
like
with
to
a
use.
thresh in the game, I like to use that word.
Cunning indeed, and we saw the threshold indeed reach, and the tower falls down.
A lot of gold to the Callista. A lot of gold to the Callista.
Oh yeah, and with the Galio roaming as well, as we said, and the pillar already kind of used early-ish, there was no way to stop a hero's entrance, so it would have been a dive if they'd stuck around.
Speaking of that Galio and the hero's entrance, Dasher has not abused this Galio at all in this laning phase.
No.
Vladimir can sometimes do that into melee matchups. Not managed to find very many openings, so aware of what the Nidalee can do. There was a Predator propped from the Omnistone over Rhino heading up towards that mid lane. Predator, of course, a rune that has been subject to change over the last couple of patches. Boogie, noticing that the Krugs are gone, will channel his own recall. And yeah, going back to Ace, he's done very well in this lane, exerting some pressure across the map and in a confident position now in this Galio.
And part of it has to be said that Galio and Nidalee is a pretty ugly combo, and you see Dash has had to be quite wary of that. Pooh is now roaming up to try and get to pass, but the Thundering Smash comes down, and Volleyball on all fours is going to try and run away. The Pillar's pretty good, though. It's forcing the ult out of Paz, but he is now trying to run away and does flash the hook, but it is a flash burn.
It's a flash burn. Opens up the other side of the map for V3. A second dragon now for the taking. Even though Boogie is on the top side jungle trying to take away some jungle camps, it's going to be Arch taking down the dragon.
I'm here, but I'm afraid I'm going to sneeze, but not quite. And it's an awful place to be in as a play-by-play caster, as things might be breaking
I thought
out.
you were giving me some hand signals.
No,
I've got an important thing to say. I need to sneeze.
It was really unfortunate because I wanted to cover my face. I wanted to get away from the microphone in case I did sneeze. I think I've held it off, but we'll wait and find out. So if there's suddenly a cacophonous noise from our end, that's probably me sneezing into the microphones. I'll try and avoid that if I can.
And speaking of holding off, it looks like the top lane push from the Hawks has been held off by Boogie and Paz, even though the bot lane has rotated up there. Archer now down in the bot lane after taking that dragon. 2 dragons, of course, stacked up for V3, happily farming up towards his first item, which will be that Blade of the Ring King.
So it's been a bit of a quieter early game than we've seen from V3 thus far. But quiet though it may be, they are up about 2,000 gold here at 13 minutes, which is really good news.
You see, if Klepto was still in the game, then Dasher would just even up that gold lead by existing.
He would, and he doesn't. It doesn't, so we're all quite happy about that.
Thank the powers that be. Adamic now running into this duo.
Weak side, Aramik is a nightmare. He's going to have to try and run away. He's under the clone, but he can't get out. He's going to get showstoppered away and just gets eviscerated. The spears get pulled out, and he's more like a voodoo doll than a monkey anymore.
And his therapist says to him, you know, strong side teams don't exist. They can't hurt you. Strong side team is V3, and it can very much hurt you. Adamic goes in, dies his second death of this game, 0-2. And this is what we were worried about earlier in the game versus Burning Core. Didn't happen in that game. It's certainly happening right now. He is being taken apart on these sidelines.
With Boogie roaming down as well, I think they get to the tier 2 off that as well. That's huge. A second turret, kind of a pretty smart bush bait against this top laner who we have seen fall prey to some of the wily patterns of competitive teams.
And I love how V3 are just taking this game to the Hawks, but not taking it to the members, which might have that potential of the turnaround. They're not leaving it up to chance, and they don't even need the Galio ult to start turning these plays in their favor. It's already working out massively so for them.
It is, and there's just so much gold on the Callista there.
It's huge.
That's 1,000 gold lead over the Aphelios, but 2,000 over pretty much everyone else in the game.
The gold injection for Archer is huge because he'll get to the point where he has 3 items when other people are on 2 items, and that's a really big thing, right? The 2-item spike from Callista is huge. Once you get the 3rd item, which is either the Bloodthirster or that Death Stance, it's even harder to kill. It's the Ezreal syndrome, except you have a bit more priority in lane, and you have that go button of the Fate's Call. I'm looking forward to seeing what V3 do with this lead on bot lane.
Okay, hook onto Rhino then. Maybe they look for a little bit more, but the pillar is just there. And it looks cool, and it's good CC, but that's about it. Second Herald is spawned, and it is first items complete for Vladimir, Galio, Aphelios, and the Callista, which are big deals. At least Honey has hit that breakpoint. There is a lot more daggers in inventory for Archer, so attack speed is always a terror on Callista, so that is scary, but there are ways for the Hawks to contest here, and a decent CDR on the Vladimir, even if it's not fantastic.
No, well, he does get that 10% CDR from Transcendence coming in from the runes and has that scaling cooldown reduction as well. So he'll already be nearing that 40% cooldown reduction mark. And with his Q maxed out, he's really going to be healing up a lot. But will it work? That is actually a huge AFO, by the way. But yeah, Dash will be able to sustain quite a lot in the laning phase, but can he do it enough in team fights?
Okay, so contest around the Herald is still here. Pretty much everybody but the top players is around. Check out Dash. He's still down bot lane. He can't be here yet. He doesn't have the teleport either as run the ignite with the phase rush. So he would have to wander up
Dash
into
is
the
in
back of
mid
the
lane.
fight.
Paz just recalled, got himself a Triforce for this fight.
Oh,
That's
that's
huge as
big,
well.
yeah.
Big first item for Paz. So with that all said in mind, the Hawks looking to back off, maybe not contesting this.
Boogie will look to pick this one up, and they've already got the first 2 Drakes. They got the first Herald as well. They're looking to get onto the second Herald as well. And what they have bought out of the early pressure has been clean objective takes.
Has been indeed. Part of that is helped by the Callista, of course.
Oh,
because
yes.
She's there with the Rend, allows you that objective secure, and gives you that priority to play around these early rotations, which we've been saying. The V3 team has been first to every punch so far.
And that feels like the biggest shift to me from spring to summer has been V3's draft into first 5 minutes and level 1s have been very crisp, very decisive, and just like they all know what they're doing at the right moments. And because they are that 10 seconds, not even that much, 2 seconds ahead of the play, they get to pull off things other teams just aren't ready for. And that decisiveness, I feel, is what is earning V3 a lot of these early advantages.
And what we were saying earlier in the day is that it looked like the Hawks were ready for Burning Core. But can any team in the LJL right now be ready for V3? And so far, the answer has been no. We will see V3 versus DFM after this game. Maybe that will be the litmus test for that statement. I'm looking to see how far can this V3 comp go and this team go in this tournament, because they are looking unstoppable right now. We need to see them put under pressure.
That second Herald has been spawned in mid lane. It did have the eye hit, but it did get a charge off, and that's as the Ocean Drake is spawning. So V3 will have priority over their entrance to the river. Dash is behind the Dragon Pit, though.
Okay.
Maybe looking for a flank, so keep an eye on the Vladimir. We haven't seen a Hemo Plague as yet. There is a Pink Warden bush, and we're going to see Dasher try and trade onto Ace, but just nothing goes through onto this tanky Galileo at this point in the game.
Every summoner is available. Every ultimate is available. This could go absolutely cataclysmically. We said the Hawks cannot disengage well from this team, but they do have tools to turn around a fight. Atomic caught out very briefly there. Pillar put down into the river, and it will be V3 muscling out the Hawks from this objective right now.
They have no vision.
Pushing forward for even more vision.
Yeah, they've got no vision to the Hawks. They've got one blue ward in that bush at the back of the Ocean Drake pit, but that is it, and it's just cleared away. Now Hawks, and with Tussle leading the charge trying to find a way, but Honey takes a spear, and that is a rough space to be. He's got Gravitum, he's got Infernum. That's a decent Gravitum ult. They're going to try and go in, but it's a good Fate's call. Here comes the turnaround. The heroic entrance leaves Aramik a pancake on the floor. The Ocean Drake is secured by Tussle, though, so that's stolen away, and the fight is continuing. Dasher in the backline has got a lot of damage up, and now he's being turned around. It's a double for Ace on the Galio. Boogie is hunting around looking for a kill. 5 versus 3 is now the fight. The flashing with the Nimbus cloak gets V3 a third. They're chasing forward still. Honey just escapes the spear, but here comes the rest of the squad as the turnaround is Aaron Aphelios looks to put out the weight of 200 years and a triple kill in the turnaround for the Hawks. They steal the Drake and they make V3 punish V3 rather for their overstep at the end of the fight.
There are tools to turn around this fight, we said, for the Hawks, and Honey has all of them within his weapons. Gets a triple kill to end up the fight, and with the Dragon going over as well, this is actually a victory for the Hawks. And once again, it's against the run of play. We've seen it sometimes from them. Now with 4 kills on the Aphelios, that's a huge gold injection for this carry.
Well, let's go over the replay once again. It looked good for V3 at the start.
Okay, so Ace has the flank here. He's trying to look to get on top of Honey, but he just doesn't manage it. The hero's entrance comes in, but he does at least dunk down Atomic, who hasn't managed to get full use out of that Cyclone. Dasher chunks down the health bars with that Hemo Plague, but is finished off himself. But with those said health bar chunks, it allows Honey the ability to turn around with the Gravitum, buys himself some space, walks out with that Gravitum, and then turns around with this huge Infernum combo, because the Face Breaker is just not quick enough to bring Honey in for that CC and keep him down low on those health bars.
And we saw the switch out to Severum at the end there as well. Clutch for a little bit of healing. That was well played by Honey, but also V3 walking into AoE when your health bar was that low. That one was a bit dumb.
That one's overstretching your bounds, yes.
Okay, so V3 still up 2,000 gold after that fight. Hawks that have turned it around. They've got themselves an AD carry now at 2 items, who was quite a way behind Archer's Callista. Now is a legitimate team fight threat with that Hurricane on top of the Infinity Edge. There is the person we're going to keep an eye on, but V3 will now finally return to the scene of the crime earlier and finish up what the Rift Herald started. They are 3 towers to 1, and that's probably where most of their gold is right now.
It is, speaking of gold and where it is, we got to check in on those items. Finally, Adamic has himself his own Triforce on that Wukong, and there is the Zhonya's Hourglass onto Ace in that mid lane for Galio. Those are the 2 biggest ones that I can think of. Of course, then Honey has his own items too, and he is using it to show the power of Crescendum. It does a lot of damage from a very long range away when you have that Calibrum.
It does. And I also want to index or like take our eyes over to the gold difference between these 2 AD carries. It was 1,000 gold lead for Archer before that last fight. It has switched to 1,000 gold lead for Honey. A 2,000 gold shift on an individual level is pretty damn massive.
Shutdowns are nice. They're fun. Fun for half the family, because the other half's had themselves shut down.
They've been made destitute. They got sued by the laws of bounties within Summoner's Rift. And Honey is now a multi-millionaire, it feels like, or at least 1,000 there, and it's all earned him some a Lamborghini. It's a Huracan there in the inventory.
Oh, very true.
And
I don't know much about cars, but I knew about that.
Neither do I. So I've made that reference, and that'll be the last one, because otherwise I'm going to show how ignorant I am.
Yes, what is a car?
What is a car? What is a car? I don't know, actually. What is a car?
Well, get in, loser. We're going to the top of the table, say V3. They're still looking to close out this game and potentially look towards that undefeated streak increasing.
Okay, so Aramic, still in a difficult spot. He's got a Trinity Force now, at least, as an Executioner's Calling, which is great news versus the Nidalee and the Callista, who do love their lifesteal. But 0-3-0 is not where we wanted this guy to be, and it's once again that weak side play that has been suspect from the guy. On the other hand, though, Honey and Pooh, the 100-acre bot lane, are turning into 200 acres because they've added an extra 100 years onto that particular forest. And with the Aphelios where he is...
That's great. That's so great.
Why
wasn't Volibear played by Pooh?
I would... Genius. I want Aphelios.
The 200-acre bot lane.
The 200-acre bot lane. That is what we need.
You could even do that when they're not called Honey and Pooh, but it just makes it better.
All right. We'll be there with that. Wait and get used to it. We'll look for it in the future.
Is there a Tiger champion? We can have Ude with Tiger stance.
Yeah, I suppose that counts.
Then you can have.
Is there a Tiger skin for Nidalee? Like a?
No, I think there's a leopard one. I don't think there's a tiger one.
It's not okay.
Then you can have like Cottontail Fizz for summer as well, and then you've got
Genius.
Genius, and you just
the coach needs to be Christopher Robin.
There you go.
Okay, well,
enough. The coach is Christopher Robin.
Okay, back to maybe more important things, namely this Ocean Drake that is spawned. V3 wants this.
They
really do, but they are nowhere near around it. Ace rather has teleport. He'll try and find his way in at some point, but they have to be aware of what damage that Aphelios can do. He's got Gravitum and Infernum again, which are not bad team fight options. Reiner is off to the back of this fight, looking to find a flank. So is Paz. He's going to try and shunt over. Here we go. The showstopper's in. Can we see the Stormbringer? But Tussle's just deleted. The hook was onto Paz, but it means very little. Aramic dies as well. It's another 2-4-0 start for the fight. Oh! Volibear! The exhaust is there. It'll stop him from doing as much work as he like. He flashes back out because he cannot stand in front of Infernum Severum, which is the team fight wombo combo dream of an Aphelios. Here comes a flash Facebreaker from Reiner, making the huge plays. And V3 will ace that fight without losing a single man.
It's a clean ace out of nowhere after the flank from Reiner comes in. I think the fight is very back and forth, but V3 somehow slide to a 5-0 victory. I'm sure we'll see a replay of it so we can run over that again. But I want to say that Zhonya's was so important from Ace. He used the item break points and managed to back up his carries in the front line.
Oh, well, let's take it down a little bit there and take stock, because that fight has earned V3 Ocean Soul points, and more critically, it will be a 25-minute barrel on all members. Nymera, V3 after one last fight, find a fantastic one here.
Reiner finds himself on the flank, is spotted on vision, but it's not enough to dissuade him from engaging. It's Adamic, that guy who is not the strongest person in the world right now, going in and getting getting his face broken. It's a valiant attempt from the Hawks to try and turn this around, particularly with the ultimates of Dasher buying space for Honey, and we use that term quite a lot for the Aphelios, because if he is given space to work his way up to full Conqueror stacks, he does so much damage. But watch this, Reiner with the flash from that ocean bush out of vision comes in for a 3-man stun, and the bot lane of the Hawks cannot stand and fight, as we've talked about in this game. They go down, and even though the health bars are low, it's not enough to get themselves any kills, not enough to win them the fight.
We know how good Boogie is. We've seen what Archer can do, but I have held and will continue to hold that the true superstar in that bot lane is Reiner. This man can do no wrong, it feels like, this summer split. His hooks on Thresh have been godlike. That flash face breaker was team fight breaking and very likely game breaking for V3.
It's broken the AI 97% now for V3 as well. I don't even know what characteristics it's using to determine its votes, but even I can't disagree at this point.
No, I'm there with you. It is a third item in for this Kalista, who's got Death Dance as well to top off the lifesteal that she already has. That Kalista is going to be a lot harder to deal with, and it'll have inverted that gold lead again between the two
And that's the important thing. It's been reached before the Aphelios. If they go for another fight, and they do have their ultimates again, with the Baron buff, they have the means to force the hand of the Hawks. It is going to go even better for V3 than it did for the last fight.
Dasher off on a side lane here, desperately trying to wave clear versus this Galio. As Paz is kind of just stepping up to this bot lane inhibitor turret. And remember, Paz's ultimate, the Stormbringer, can act like ye old Ohm Breaker, call down the lightning and short circuit.
Honey
did use his ultimate there. Was he just trying to get some chunk out? Doesn't mean all that much. Here comes the engage, though, as the Kalista hops forward with the pierce and gets about half the hit points of Honey away. He will try and heal up here as much as he can with bloodlines. But not much more to be said. That mid lane tier 2 went down. Paz will crush the tier 3. Now the inhibitor siege begins. Galio and Vladimir are still battling it out for the wave control on the top side, but V3 don't really care too much about that. They care significantly more about these inhibitor turrets in the mid lane and the inhibitor in the bot.
And this is the full court press we talk about in League of Legends. When you have the Baron buff, when you've got a range advantage to boot with that, it makes things so hard to play out. Ace and Dash are fighting on the top side.
Dasher trying to call Ace's bluff, but he will just Hero's Entrance out. And that was kind of always the issue. Dasher could do some damage to Ace, but he can't stop the teleport out. And if a fight did break out, there was always going to be the chance for 4 versus 5. At least now the Hero's Entrance is burned. And with the Baron now ended, it's a 3,500 Baron power play. And they're going to continue to shove onto this inhibitor turret in the mid lane. Not quite got it.
No, and with the Human Plague now down, they can't force themselves a fight. It does stop Ace from pushing into that top lane in a turret from the Hawks, which does maybe save them some harm in the longer run of things, but it is still a low value play. You wanted to achieve more with that. You did, of course, get out the Hero's Entrance as well, so at least it's an ultimate trade.
Okay, so eyes on items just briefly. That Aphelios has not got Death Dance, has got the Executioner's Call, as we mentioned earlier. He's team fight ready. There is a world where the Hawks can rely on Honey and Pooh to kind of carry them out of these fights a little. It's not going to be easy because it's very similar items for a Kalista. This Ace is pretty strong as well. It's a Lich Bane now for Boogie. That's pretty terrifying to deal with.
I know. Thanks flashing out of the bush, potentially putting some threats onto the grouped members of the Hawks, but the Lantern is timely again. And actually, I do want to praise Pooh. Even though they're in a losing situation, this Thresh has proved its value. Pooh has largely been someone we've said is better on peel supports than engage and utility supports. But this game, and as much as the last game against Burning Core as well, he's been showing us up a little bit and proving that he does have some extra picks within his repertoire.
Indeed. Kind of what I do want to bring our eyes to, if we can, though, is we've got this Ocean Drake up, so maybe we won't have too much time. But what do the Hawks have to do to try and find a way into this game? Because I think they're likely to just lose Ocean Soul here.
Not give Ocean Soul would be great, but I don't think they're in a position to fight right now. You don't have the vision on that side of the map. You know you're going into every summoner and every ultimate once again available from V3. And then with the Baron in a minute, that's not looking so good for the Hawks because now they have to fight against once again, this huge gold deficit, which they're facing, 1000, an Ocean Soul, and so many item power spikes being brought out from V3. You're waiting on Honey to produce a miracle on this Aphelios. That's, once again, we've seen it so many times this season. That's what you're waiting for.
Okay, well, let's see if Honey can channel a little bit of his inner Gango. The teleport's coming in behind. This will be the play. Dash has got Hemo played with Aramek, who's come in, though. The Cyclone's onto 2 minutes, only onto Rhino and Ace. They're not really the targets you want. The re-engage from Paz, the hero's entrance from Ace. That's a big knock-up, and Dasher is getting pretty low. The engage is still going on. Pooh trying to run away. That's a big kill onto the Thresh, but look at Honey. He's still alive. He's still trying to put out damage, but he can't step up anymore, and the Vladimir is dead. Boogie in the 1v1 does lose it to the Crescendum Calibrum combo. The teleport is stopped by Tussel's well-placed pillar, trying to save the end of the game. Honey has got damage. He's got a miracle and a dream. He's got a binding eclipse that holds Ace down briefly, but Ace will kill the Trundle, and now it's a 1 versus 2. Severum is there. The onslaught is down. There is the binding eclipse again, but now the Sky Splitter is coming down, and Honey falls as the game will end. Reiner and Archer will secure V3 a 5th win, but Hawks at least went out with a bang.
Went out with a bang, but there was no questioning it at the end of it. Some fights went back and forth, but there was nothing to question about the end of that game. And to round up our thoughts on the issue, we're going to go to a quick break. Join us soon.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Unofficial cast coverage of the LJL Summer Split. I am still your host, Alex, also sexy, come back by Mars1 on the internet, and of course I am joined, I forgot to put my light on, and I'm of course joined by Sam, Initialized Hapgood, and Alex Nymera Hapgood. Almost thought Nymera was your first name. I refer to you as that so often, sir.
Easy mistake to make. Very similar names.
Oh, very similar, very similar. Gentlemen, we just saw V3 continue their reign of dominance, relatively speaking. 5-0, and this game kept everything in control. The team looked like they had control pretty much from the beginning, even when a few things went a little bit shaky for them.
They did. We saw immediately V3 set up the vertical jungling, something which they've done several times before. They love to do that because they know that Boogie tends to win the smite fights, and mechanically they trust themselves to win the early battles. This time it was uncontested, and Boogie looked to put some pressure on the bot lane. Ended up in a bot lane dive going in 2 for 2, but it ended up being Archer being given this huge individual lead.
He really was given that huge lead and was able to really kind of momentum the team around themselves, but did not even end up with the highest KDA on the team. That was taken away from him towards the end of the game by Ace, and Ace seemed to have an amazing game this round, and against Dasher of all players.
yeah, survived against the Vladimir. We know that Vladimir can bully melee matchups. Of course, Galio has options, and there was a little bit of fear for Dasher as well because it was that Bugio combination we mentioned a few times. Galio throws a taunt out, you land the spear, people die. Vladimir had to be a little wary of that, and with the early pressure that V3 had generated, it wasn't as easy for Dash to play aggressively, and kind of showed in lane.
It did to a fair degree. Let's bring it back down to that bot lane that we began with, and Reyna seemed to have a lot of important moments in a lot of these team fights. I'm thinking the 3-man facebreaker ult around the dragon pit and everything else. Nymara, why does Reyna just seem to have an edge over a lot of other supports at the moment?
I think it's a lethal mentality in a lot of ways. I think that he sees the opening and he just goes for it in a lot of ways. And he knows the tools he has available to him. He's playing around his team being strong. I think there's a certain degree of communication that his team can follow up, which can be something which is harder, particularly when you are a Korean national in Japan as well. It's a secondary language kind of thing. Although we know that the language of League of Legends does transcend some language boundaries. If someone types GG easy, you know what that means. And that's probably what Rhino was typing out after some of those team fights.
Go on, no, go on, initialize.
So, just really briefly as well, it's just we didn't talk about it on cast because we were kind of focusing on where Boogie was in the level 1 clear. But level 1 as well, Reiner and Archer, 3rd game in a row now, find the level 1 fight where they burn 3 summoners off the opposing bot lane as well. That's the kind of lethality that is coming out of V3's bot lane, and it led to the dive as well.
It really did lead to that dive, and from that, Archer was able to get that momentum that we were talking about earlier. Let's bring it also over to the other side bot lane. Honey didn't really go down without a bit of a fight, and seemed to have the most fight in him out of the Hawks, in my opinion.
And we were talking about V3 having control.
Yes.
That was true. By and large, in the entire game, apart from that 3rd dragon fight, where we saw, once again, Reiner looking for that huge follow-up facebreaker towards the end of the fight, and then Honey turns around with Inferno. He gets 3 kills. He's sat at 4 and 1 on Unofficial. He turns around a 1k deficit versus the Callisto into a 1k advantage. And after that point, V3 have to look at these fights in a very different way.
Yes, it had to look around differently. I mean, at the very end, when V3 were ending that game, Honey was 2v1ing at one point a bear and a statue, the statue of Demacia, but they were probably going to find the man with his many guns before that, and they did kill him eventually before... Reyna and Archer decided, let's just end this game, guys. You guys are having far too much fun here. We can't keep doing this to these guys. It's rude. It's mean. Don't bully people.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. But in all fairness, this is a weird way to transition away from bullying. Weak side, top lane, Aramik.
It happened again.
Didn't it? Yeah, I'm getting visions of when Archer and Reyna kind of just said no to him.
Yeah. So I mean, this is something that I kind of called out a little bit. That like he's playing the 1v1s pretty well. Yeah. Like it was close versus Paz. We saw the kind of pause come out. Like I can't believe I lost that. Like that kind of mentality is fine. We get where that 1v1 is okay. It's the map play, the map awareness that isn't there for this player right now. He gets bush baited down by the bot tier 2. He dies. He costs the team the bot tier 2. And that just snowballs an advantage that V3 already had.
Yes.
That isn't good enough.
No, it wasn't good enough. And then from there, it led to a lot of team fights just falling apart. He ended up about 2 to 3 levels, almost always, not long after, below Paz. And when you're a Wukong, we saw what he was able to do when he was ahead on a Wukong, but a Wukong that's behind just has a good ultimate, has a CC ultimate in there. You need someone like Honey and then someone else as well to really be bringing more of the damage when you don't have it. I mean, what does this mean for V3 going into face against DFM, gentlemen? Like, this is the big thing, right? Like, they're 5-0. If they can beat DFM, they've done basically the gauntlet out of all the top teams. What does that mean for the league? We'll go to Nymera first, yeah.
What does it mean for V3? Of course, it means that they extend their unbeaten streak, 5-0. And the big thing for me is that they didn't necessarily show much during this game. Going into DFM, they showed a Volibear top lane. That's nice, but that's something which, that's something you've seen in solo queue. I don't think that was the key pick for them. All they're showing is combos that they've used before. They could have any number of combos left in the tank there.
Yeah.
So I don't think V3 are particularly phased going up against DFM. If anything, I think they're going in very confident.
I mean, V3 don't even have to worry if DFM can be beaten. We've already seen them be beaten once before they even do it, and against a team that they have already also beaten. So, Initialize, what does this mean for DFM coming against a team wanting to rival them for their crown?
On paper, this should be V3's game. It is so hard to write off DFM, though, in that they have got these... There's just the weight of talent on that roster is so damn high. It's like sort of talking about G2 at the minute. They have got that ability to sometimes blow open games. Even if sometimes they go plays and go, what on earth are you doing? And we are seeing that a little bit from them. They've been coin flipping games a little bit here and there. On that as well, I'm be interested to see how the bot lane plays out, because I don't think Archer and Reiner are going to have as easy a time against Gang and Utapon as they may have done here against Honey and Poo.
Sure, so the time's not going to be easy and the game won't be easy, but this will be a really good limit test to how far V3 can go moving forward. Well, gentlemen, we'll find out not too long after this break, where we will see V3 Esports face off against Detonation Focus Me. Don't go away, we'll be right back after this break.